Just as I hit the live button, he disappears, but he's right there.
Oh, I hit the wrong button again.
Hey, welcome back. Yeah, it's okay. Like I said, I'll be able to bring you back. Yep, move that mouse. Told you I'd move one. And it's live on Facebook.
Live on Facebook.
And let me get this link copied. Paste and send. Give it a share to my page. You can share it to your page.
Already one step ahead of you, baby.
Yeah. Did it just share? I think it shared. If not, I'll share it later. Um, all right. And that's a nice looking drum head you got.
Oh yeah, this it's actually one of my friends that lives here in Tulsa, and I asked her if I could use it, and the first show I used it at was with Stony LaRue.
Nice. Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
definitely have to get all that. All right. Got everything good to go. All right. Well, if you're ready,
always ready, baby.
let's. Yeah. All right. What's up, everybody? I'm Ozzy, St. Anger Productions. Today, I got a really good, great special guest on. Uh, Last minute rescheduling. Totally awesome. Keeps me on my toes. So we got Dillon Escue. Hey, Dylan, how are we doing today?
Hey, I'm a drummer. You know I'm always gonna be late. No, I'm doing great. I'm doing great. How you doing?
Oh, I'm fabulous. Just running late myself. Drummer thing.
Yep, yep.
uh, all right. So I fully support local entertainment. However, local is not limited to just Tonkawa, Tulsa, or wherever. Local can literally be anywhere you're located. Local is your scene, your location. So, with that being said, tell me a little bit about what local means to you. What is your location and describe the local entertainment scene?
Man, so one thing I'm blessed to be from Tulsa, born and raised in Tulsa. We have a rich history here when it comes to music. Local to me is, you know, is going to these dive bars or going to these smaller places or seeing what great talent is out there in the city. People don't understand how much talent there is out there that they're not playing arenas. And local also is a brotherhood. Or it's a family.
Nice. Yes.
So at the end of the day, Tulsa has a really strong history of local music, and currently has a pretty good local music scene right now.
Absolutely.
So I mean, it's like that all over the place. When I'm on the road after shows, we go stop at these little bars, and it's cool to see the local and other places. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's pretty awesome, man.
Oh, it is. I did that a couple years ago over in Little Rock. I had some time off and I got I think I got a motel room. And I went to this little bar called Willie D's. It's oh, what do they call it? It was something. But anyways, you just come in. You got a piano player and a couple local musicians, and they just get up there and basically take requests. Give them a tip. They play the song. And, they were really good, but they were local and just having fun with it.
Yeah, and one pretty cool thing about our local music scene here is you could go out to like the Colony on a random Thursday, and Paul Benjamin and them are playing, but one of the Hanson brothers is up there playing with them, or the guitar player from Shinedown has been up there playing with them before. So you never know who you're gonna see.
And that's where it sucks living so far away from Tulsa. Is, being out here in the sticks, you kind of miss all that.
Yeah, and I will say that the choice of places to play local music in Tulsa has kind of gone down the past couple years. Now it's real big on cover bands and stuff like that. So I would like to see I would like to see it. I've been throwing the idea around too. I would like to see someone open a good live music bar club, you know,
Mhm.
like we used to have.
Oh yeah, I mean I tell you what, the Bowman Twin Event Center, where the old laser tag place used to be on Sheridan.
Yeah,
If you haven't been in there yet, that's a really cool venue, and they're they're doing a lot of stuff. Like it's going to be Tulsa's go-to venue now, I think.
yeah. I haven't been
The
in there yet, but that's also a good thing about Tulsa is because we're kind of in the middle, so we're a
Mhm.
good destination stop. A good routing stop for a lot of these bands that come through, and of course, we have the Canes Ballroom, which is one of the most historic venues in the country.
Mhm.
But so and everyone always loves playing Tulsa.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've been in contact with a band that's out of North Carolina that um, they've talked about loving Tulsa. That every time they come through, they do well.
Yep.
I'd like to possibly get them come back
What's their
sometime.
name?
Oh crap! Don't put me on the spot like that. Um,
Uh,
I'd have to look it up to
no,
be
yeah, just
honest.
message it to me on Facebook. I want to check them out.
Oh hell yeah, definitely. Because they were recently a smaller band that's like they're really taking off,
That's good,
and things
man.
like that. Definitely, things like that. It happens with our local musicians. No, look at you've been doing some of the country stuff. Look at all the talent that's came out of Oklahoma that's made it big.
Well, and I tell people all the time, a lot of people don't understand and realize is most of these musicians that play for these big country acts are guys that grew up playing rock and roll, and like Luke Combs, his bass player lives here in Tulsa and plays for the church.
Mhm.
Corey Kent, all his guys live here and play for the church. Kenny Chesney's guitar player lives here and plays for the church. There's a lot of there's a lot of people in Tulsa, musicians in Tulsa that are musicians for giant country acts, and we can get into some of that later on why and what the difference is and on why that's kind of happening. But
Mhm.
it's a big surge right now.
That's awesome. I mean, you never know who you're going to run into just by going to a little club or a church.
And I always tell people all the time because I've been on tours where one night we'll play at a theater in front of 2,000 people, and then the next night play a bar in front of three people. But out of those three people in that bar, one of them could be the person that changes your life. You know what I mean? So you want to play
Absolutely.
every show like you're playing a sold out arena.
Man, if I haven't heard that before on these interviews, because it's right, you never know.
And also another thing that as a lot of people understand, a lot of these guys, especially when they first get started out playing bigger places, have that attitude that that they're a rock star and they're better than everybody. And one thing that I've learned and that I cherish is I treat everyone the same, whether they're the janitor of the club or the owner of the club. I walk in with a smile on my face and I'm very polite. And I've always been in the bands I've been in, also been like the manager, so I've always handled that stuff. But I've always been polite and treat everyone nice and tip the bartenders well, and that goes a very long way.
It does. I tell you what, I've seen bands like Grind and well now Dime Store Riot that played on the big stage at Rocklahoma, not just that little party stage
Yeah, no, yeah, to play, yeah,
or
the
the
DB stage,
DB.
yeah.
Yeah, but I remember one year Grind actually opened Rocklahoma Friday at 3 p.m. on that second stage.
I
But
will,
yeah,
I will say,
you
shout out to Dimestone Riot because they are a badass band, and it's a little kind
they
of
are.
there's a little kind of unknown fact, but I was originally supposed to play with those guys, but I was just too busy at the time and couldn't make it happen.
That's why I mean, look at the possibilities you've gotten to go with. Sometimes that happens.
Yep,
Um, but yeah, they're amazing people that they will still treat you like a human being.
exactly.
Same with Ravens Banquet out of Texas, Southern Texas, that I interviewed them last week. They've been to Rocklahoma and they've done some cool stuff already. Yet they're still down to earth people. So,
And
but like you
most
said,
people, yeah, most people you meet
don't let it
are,
get to you.
yeah, most people there's, don't get me wrong, you're gonna run across those people that are assholes, but
Hmm.
majority of those guys that are at that level, the shine down level, the big level, are genuinely down to earth, amazing people.
Oh yeah, I mean, hell, I interviewed Raven Revival the other day, and he was talking about his experience with Ivan Moody.
Yep,
Bought a couple of his shirts, and then when they played Rocklahoma, he was up there wearing that shirt.
yep. And he's a guy that's actually a really cool guy. Someone else that was really cool. I ate lunch with David Dramer from Disturbed out at Rocklahoma one year,
Dude.
and
Okay, we're down here. Bye. Oh,
he's one of the most down to earth, coolest people in the world, man.
oh yeah. And that's one reason I got my tattoo. We're all
Yeah.
disturbed,
Oh yeah.
and based off of the symbol that was on some of those older albums,
Yep.
just encompassing all your religions all in one. Um,
Yep.
so it doesn't matter you know who we are. We're all disturbed. So
Exactly.
no reason to hit the big time or think you're hitting the big time and just be an ass. Still be a
Yep.
decent person.
That's a career killer. Is being an ass.
Oh yeah. So how far is your reach musically, and how far are you willing to take your music?
Well, I've been blessed. Pretty much have been all over the country. Playing music. One year
Hmm.
we played every fair and rodeo from Texas to Wyoming to Colorado to Nebraska. Um,
Damn.
and I'd never been to a rodeo. I'm a city boy. I don't fit in that crowd. I show up and they're all wearing cowboy hats and stuff, and I'm wearing, skinny black jeans with bandanas, and my face is painted and no shirt, and so. But I've gotten the pleasure to go a lot of places and see a lot of awesome, amazing things that I wouldn't have got to do if it wasn't for this.
Hell yeah. So how far are you actually willing to take it?
You know, I struggle with this, and it's funny you asked that. So I've always had this motto, right? So I started playing professionally when I was 15, maybe even
Hmm.
14, and I had this motto that by the time I was 30, that I would slow down on it a little bit, right? So when I turned 30, I sold all my stuff and kind of was just in that mood where I really just was ready to move on. And it's crazy how stuff works. Well, then my boy Richard, shout out RL Drums, and Omate Cymbals, sent me this amazing acrylic double bass, his two kicks, a double bass drum set, and all new cymbals. And I kind of
Damn.
I kind of looked at it like a sign, you know. I mean, so um, right now I'm getting that drive back in me. I've got a couple things in the fire with I have a management company that put me with some people, and we have some things working. But I will always have that drive in me, and I hope to not only get back to where I was, but even bigger. I hope to be able to play with someone and headline arenas and festivals and oh, all that fun stuff.
Yeah. I mean, dream big, reach for the stars.
Which brings me back to why all the rock guys switch to country music because you can't. It's very 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 hard as a rock artist to when you're on that mid level playing the Kane's Ballroom and stuff like that. It's very hard to make a living as a rock musician. So for instance, a rock band playing the King's Ballroom that's headlining it, like Pop Evil, for instance, may charge 10, 12, 15,000 versus a country band playing the same venue is going to charge 25, 30,000. The money's just so much different. I mean, went from making $100 a night playing rock music to making 500 bucks a night, and everything's paid for. Playing drums, playing 2 hours, hour and a half, 2 hour headliner sets.
Damn.
So that's why
I
everyone's
missed my calling there.
yeah, yeah, that's why you see the big surge in music. How everyone's switching to country. I mean, all these artists are going to country because country music right now is where all the money is.
Hmm. I mean, it's something for everybody to think about for sure.
Yeah, all you musicians out there, if you really, truly, really have that drive in you, you want to get out and put the work in. I mean, I mean, I remember first starting out playing with a band, and we were playing just hole in the wall. I mean, going there, have to move the pool table and jukebox out the way to set up, little places, and we're getting paid 12, 13, 1400 bucks a night. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And when on this rodeo, playing these rodeos and fairs, we were getting 3,500, 4 grand a night just to play these little rodeos and fairs and podunk towns that no one's ever heard of. So, I mean, that's where the money's at.
Okay. Um.
But with
So
that being said, I also really, really, really miss playing rock and roll.
I
But if
bet
anyone's
that's.
ever seen me live, I play country music like rock and roll. So
Oh, put a little rock in it.
a
Country
lot of
rock
rock,
fusion.
a lot of rock.
So, how did you get into music? And it's clear that you're a drummer. You got the drums back there, and you've already said you play drums. What other instruments do you play?
So unfortunately, I can't sing, I can't hold a note, I can't play guitar. My hands don't work like that. Uh, from being on the road and stuff, I've messed around with bass. We used to do a little fun thing in our set where everyone swap instruments, um, and then I could play a little bit of piano. And by a little bit, I mean I could play "Home Sweet Home" by Motley Crue. That's about it.
Hmm.
So drums is pretty much I'm a drummer because I can't do anything else. And with my personality and how I am on stage and my charisma, I wish more than anything in the world I was out front moving around singing or playing guitar, but can't do it, man. And I actually got started in music. It's kind of funny. So back before I was born, my dad owned and managed some big rock and roll clubs here in Tulsa that were the clubs. And then he was a drummer, and he found out I was being born and kind of quit all that and started selling cars and kept his drums for a little bit. And I was playing on his lap when I was a baby. And then as I got older, my cousins actually are the Hanson brothers. So, uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So as I kind of got older, I got more interest in the music and in the drums, and then started hanging out with them and going to their shows and family reunions with them, and finally decided that that's what I want to do.
Okay. So came from a nice musical background.
Yeah, my grandma was a award-winning piano player, and I just started playing and got that bug in me. But I owe a lot of where I'm at today and everything to a guy named Jason Gilardi. Uh, I don't know if you know who that is, but he used to be the drummer for a band called Caroline Spine back in the '90s and 2000s,
Okay.
and his mom is actually one of the most famous actresses back in the day, Annette Funicello. She was one of the original Three Musketeers. Uh, but I got started in lessons with him when I was really, really, really young, and he helped me and mentored me and groomed me and taught me mostly everything I know. And I owe most of where I'm at to him.
Well, definitely a good shout out to him.
Yeah, now he's playing with the band Dead Metal Society, DMS.
Oh no shit.
Yep,
Damn. That's awesome.
yep.
I mean, I love that band.
Oh man, they're so good.
Oh yeah. So you've been around the country a time or two. Um, this is where we just get to open up and I kick back and let you chat. Describe your musical background for us. Like, where have you been along your journey?
So I started out, like I said, extremely young, 13, 14, playing with just, local bands, local rock bands. Um, and then through networking and, I've always been real big on, it's something that my dad always instilled in my head from him owning clubs is, you always want to look the part. You don't want to look like someone in the crowd. You want to look the part. And
Hmm.
also, people are there to see a show. So from what's one thing I've always done since I first started playing is when you come to a show and I'm playing drums, you'll see me throw a drumstick 90 feet in the air and catch it while I'm playing 100 times. You'll see me stand on my drum set, jump off my drum set. I make it fun and I make it a show and I have fun with it and make sure that the audience has fun with it. Um,
Hell yeah.
so I started that, played with some rock people and uh, networked and ended up talking to a country guy who now he's actually a big talent buyer and he's a manager for Saving Abel actually. But
Nice.
he started out playing music, so we started in a little van with a little trailer. Actually, with a little Ford Escape and a little trailer, playing these little dive bars, and then like we talked about earlier, you never know who's there or what you're gonna see or who's gonna see you, and
Absolutely.
it just kind of turned into after that how I've really kind of my career's gone, how I've kind of made whatever name I have for myself. I'm a hired gun, so I'm the guy that if someone needs because a lot of these country acts have rotating musicians, so if
Hmm.
if someone's about to go on tour and needs a drummer, my management will call me, and go, hey, so and so is leaving for a tour in 2 weeks and needs a drummer. Here's the set list, learn it, and here's where you need to be at this date. And I can 30 artists I've done that for and show up and been able to play it, and I can tell. So that's kind of where I built my name. So I I'll play with someone for a few months, to play with someone else for a few months, and play with someone else for a few months, and just I've just always been that Mr. Reliable. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And got the pleasure to play with some pretty notable people. Obviously, in the business. I mean, I got to play with Cody Johnson back in the day. Um, you know, I've got to meet and hang out with a lot of cool people. And like I said, it all goes back to the dedication and the hard work and not giving up and going with the groove, right?
Hmm.
Figuring out what's hot and going with the groove, and also playing every show like the biggest music managers there watching you. And you got to have fun doing it. That's the number one thing, right? People tend to forget
Absolutely.
that. People tend to forget that it has to be fun. It's music,
Hmm.
and the
It's
day that
entertainment.
yeah, the day that now there's going to be hard days. There's going to be days where you have issues, but the day it quits becoming
Hmm.
fun is the day that you need to look into something else.
Absolutely. I mean, or at least figure out why it's not fun and fix it.
Yeah, I mean, and there's always different reasons. I mean, you also got to realize you're on the road, you know, 250 days out of the year with the same four guys, spending every moment of every day with each other. So it can come down to an issue with a band member, come down to an issue with a lot of different things,
Hmm.
and that's always been a hard thing that you just got to navigate, sometimes you got to sit them down and have conversations when you first get in the band. Like, look, I want to make sure we're on the same page, and kind of have that talk and make sure everyone's on the same page. Because if you have one person that's not on that page with you, it ruins everything.
Yes, it can.
So, but and like I said, in that time, I've won a country music award with one of the guys that I played with for songwriter of the year. So I've got
Hmm.
to do some pretty cool things, and to me all that doesn't matter really, right? To me, it doesn't matter if I'm playing in front of 7,000 people or a bar in front of seven. I just love playing music.
That's what it's all about.
Yep,
Just play the music.
love playing music with no shirt on and having fun.
And I've seen some of the tattoos you got on your, without the shirt on. Like you have a Slipknot tattoo. Some other cool tattoos.
that's actually like a music note tattoo. So and
Hmm.
then I have the praying hands, and then on my abdomen I have property of the Illuminati. Yep.
So what other big bands have you actually got to play with? You've opened up for some
As
good
far as
bands.
like yeah, as far as touring and opening up for people, man, I've got to open up for a lot of cool and big acts of skin country and rock. I've got to do the whole, with Buck Cherry. We did in country, we did Stony LaRue in Kansas, which was a giant crowd. Randall King was a good crowd. Colby Cooper, that was one of my favorite shows. We played with this guy named Colby Cooper on the lake at Lake of the Ozarks, and it was amazing. And then, man, a lot of festivals, you know, just a lot of there's just so many people. I can just go on and on and on and on and name. People like Saliva, and people like Jackal, or people, um, Chancey Williams is a country guy. You just go on and on and on and on. I've been blessed uh, to be able to meet those people and build a friendship and a relationship with them. Because I'm the kind of person, if we meet in person and you meet me in person, we friends automatically.
Yeah, you are.
So that's just how I am. If and I always and I'm real big on networking. I'm real big on talking to these guys because you never know if they may need a drummer, if they know someone that may need a drummer, if they, you know. I'll tell you one of the people who, as we were talking about people being assholes, someone who's known, very known to be a very big asshole, Sebastian Bach.
Hmm.
He's one of the nicest people in the world. That's the worst. He's got the worst rep ever. So one year at Rocklahoma, I was on the main stage, hanging out on the side, and he was fixing to go on, and his belt broke, and
Oh,
he's freaking out. So I just took my belt off and asked him if he wanted to use it, and gave me a big hug and used it on stage. Afterwards, gave it back to me. It was super sweet. Gave me a hug, hung out with me for a little bit. Was one of the most nicest people in the world.
oh yeah. Was that the year though that um, they couldn't hear him to the front of house, and
No, no, this was like one of the
that
first
was a
years he
different
played.
year?
Yeah,
Oh, okay, right on.
probably would have been let's see, 2011, 2011.
Okay,
But
kind of
then
one of the first few
also,
years.
yeah, and also, of course, my brother, rest in peace, Jesse Cooper, man. He played with Crooked X for a while. So that's how we kind of started that country journey together. Crooked X when they were 14, went on Good Morning America and won that contest and started touring with Kiss and got a song on Rock Band. And well, then when they were taking a break, me and him, that's when we decided we were like, man, let's go play country. And you want to talk about a culture shock when you're at a country bar and here income walking into rock and roll, bandana hanging, tatted out, long haired rockers.
It's almost like you just don't belong, but yet it's still music. You do belong.
Oh yeah. Oh no, I definitely 100%. You could definitely tell I'm the odd one out when I'm at these places.
But you're just being you.
I'm always gonna be me. Never gonna put on a front. Always gonna be me.
That's the way it should be. So you talked about the networking, and we both agreed that you never know who's watching. One of the interviews I'd seen, the guy I brought up several times, Nick Dela Cruz, he's interviewed this guy running front of house for Creed. And one of the things he talked about was a recent discussion he had with somebody else at one of the shows. There was uh, a TikTok influencer, I believe, that actually had way more followers than the band had.
What?
Yeah, some of these people have million whatever followers, and it's like or hundreds of thousands. It's like you never know just from just from somebody in the crowd with a video camera streaming your performance onto TikTok, Instagram, whatever. And there you are to
You know,
way more people than you ever thought of.
and I will say that we're in a different day and age now. First off, shout out to my boy Jiggity Jake. I saw he just commented on here, but you know, we're in a different day and age now, man, where social media and all that is such a big thing. I mean, you got guys that, you know, I love playing live, and that's what I don't like recording. I don't like playing by myself. I love playing in front of people. But you have guys that are out there that are just playing by themselves, making videos and covers, and or you know, or streaming stuff that are making millions of dollars. You know,
Mhm.
and so they think, why go out and struggle on the road when they're just sitting in the comfort of their house making all this money?
Right. Look at the drummer down in South America, I believe. Um, guy that the guy that does all those tricks.
Are you talking about the dude that's with the beard?
Yeah,
The drum
yeah,
father, whatever plays, he does all the stick stuff
yes,
and
the Groove Father.
Groove Father,
Yes.
he's amazing.
No, fuck yeah, he is.
You see, but
Um,
the hardest part about it, and that's once again it's catch 22 with this media. The hardest part about that is it's so easy now to fake stuff like that though too.
mhm.
You know, so it's you know, and I know what he's doing is real, but you know, it obviously puts that thought in the back of your mind.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched some of those videos of um, people calling out the fakes and like
Yep.
going through and really criticizing the videos. Like you can see right there where it just doesn't line up, and then there's this issue. And that. I mean,
Mhm.
so not only do you have the aspect of being potentially flagged as fake, but you do have those critics that will sit there and critique every move you make.
But then now, and you also got to look at, you know, remember back when Ashley Simpson had that big scandal on Saturday Night Live where she was got caught lip syncing?
Hmm.
Well, now you got to look at, I mean, bands like, there's a lot, people don't understand how many of these bands that are giant playing arenas and stuff, how much of them use backtracks and how many of that stuff they're not really playing or they're not really singing. And like, that's a known thing now. I mean, I mean, you got,
Hmm.
look at like Motley Crue, they've admitted.
I was just thinking that, yeah,
Yeah. That they've admitted to everything. They're not playing anything on stage. You know what I mean?
yeah, people still go support them, but that's your
But
diehard fans.
yeah, but Milli Vanilli got canceled. You know what I mean?
Hmm. And that's another fear, being, any kind of, online stuff, even stuff like this, you go and say the wrong thing and welcome to cancel culture.
Oh, you have to be extremely careful with what you say and do now. You know, that's a funny story. I'm gonna tell a couple funny stories, but it's a funny
Okay,
story.
go for it.
So we played one day. One of the bands I was in played a big rodeo in Wyoming,
Hmm.
and during an acoustic break, I get off my drums and I go behind the stage and kind of go around the corner where there's this little truck park, and I had to pee, so I peed real quick and jump back up on stage. And the whole show, you know, I'm licking my drumsticks. And in fact, the front page on the newspaper, the picture was me standing on my drum set pouring a shot of fireball in my bass player's mouth. And then they went on to say how they loved the band, but the drummer uh, was urinated behind the stage and was making several rude gestures. And then I got it how they asked me to leave the bar at the rodeo after the show. And then after the show, we went to one of those little hockey tonk bars, and a whole bunch of cowboys tried to start fighting me. And so then they got called there again too, and they just bashed me in the newspaper, bashed me. And once again, it's at the end of the day, I didn't really do anything that was I thought out of the ordinary. You know what I mean? What, going to the bathroom behind the truck and licking my drumstick and making a show out of it and pouring liquor in someone's mouth. But you never know who's watching, who can get offended.
Oh yeah, and hell, unless there was video documentation of you back there peeing, who's to say that you was or was not making any kind of gestures? It's like it's just all hearsay. A lot of it's hearsay.
Yeah,
But then you have those moments that yes, they do catch you on camera.
yeah. Well, you know, and I'm a firm believer, man. When I go to a concert, I hate when I watch bands that just stand there on stage and don't do anything. So, when you come to a show where I'm at, I'm always moving around, always jumping around, throwing sticks, standing on my drum set, licking drumsticks. And there's a picture of me at the Buck Cherry show uh, during one of the songs. I got off my drum set and jumped in the crowd and I walked through the crowd and started high fiving people, giving drumsticks, and getting the crowd hype. But
Oh yes,
I I want to be entertained when I go to a show,
yes.
and so I make sure now. Sometimes I may be a little too entertaining, but uh, sometimes I mean that's what I value myself on, man. Is just is you know I'm not the greatest drummer, the best drummer in the world. I don't ever claim to be, but I do claim that I probably put on one of the best shows that anyone's ever seen come from a drummer.
You know who you really should team up with sometime is Fever 333, and oh boy that does the vocals. He's a crazy son of a bitch. Like
Is he?
he gets out there in the crowd. Like where you mentioned the Oklahoma, um, main stage at the front of house, audio visual and all that
Yeah,
little tower back behind
yeah.
the VIP seating.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I've seen him go up there twice now, I believe. At least once, maybe twice. I don't remember. But we'd get up there and just hang off that tower and just go to town.
Man,
And then,
Uh, that's funny you said that because if anyone has followed me on Facebook, anyone out here has followed me on Facebook or seen my Facebook, man, I know there's a picture of me on there. We played a show one time that middle of the show, jumped up and hung upside down from the Raptors with a bottle of Jaeger.
God, oh God,
Yep.
I got to see that picture sometime.
Yeah, I'll have to find it and send it to you. And send it to you.
Oh yeah, the fun times. So, yeah, you hanging from the Raptor and vocals for Fever 333, hanging from front of house. It's like a Knot Fest back in 21, I think. Uh, Fever 333 played there, and I was in the back corner. It was one of those festivals that had the two side by side stages, and then the aisle for all your techs and everybody to walk through. And I was right there in that back corner, which I actually, sitting down during one of the sets, just hot and tired, and was able to snap a picture, selfies with Tech Nine standing behind me, and it caught me snapping a couple pictures and gave me the peace sign. But um, during Fever 333 set, he got back there and hanging on the tents that was over um, the equipment right there next to me. So yeah, him hanging from stuff, you hanging from stuff. That'd be a hell of a show. You got muted. Still can't hear you yet.
I got muted. My bad. Yeah.
There you go. There you go. Welcome back.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Hang on 1 second.
Can you? Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, I can hear you now. All right, cool. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
anyway, back to where we was at. People always ask if stuff's playing, but the only thing I ever really know that I'm going to do is flip drumsticks, just because, in the middle of playing a song, I can throw a drumstick and 80 foot, 90 foot in the air and catch it on beat, and about
Jeez.
about if I do it 100 times, I may drop one. But other than that, everything else is spur of the moment. I do stuff that at the end of the time when I get done playing, I start thinking about, go, why did I do that? I remember,
ADD
I remember.
much?
Oh yeah, and I remember one show. There was a whole bunch of people there, and I went to stand up on my drum set, and my drum set, my stool fell, and I fell,
Ooh.
I fell in front of everybody, fell and busted my ass.
Accidents do happen.
But I mean, uh, it is what it is. And I saw someone commented that said there's nothing like playing live, and that's what drives me, right, more than anything. Is just that feeling of playing live. Especially playing with places, bigger places. I have an intro that we use on all of our bands, and it's like it starts out, it's like 10 seconds of a famous country song, and the radio changes, and it goes like 10 seconds of a famous rap song, and the radio changes, and it goes to uh, a rock song, and the radio changes, and it ends with uh, that Backstreet Boys song, "Everybody," yeah, and it's with that, and the crowd goes crazy. But that feeling that you get when you got your in-ears in, everything's set, the lights are down, that's playing, people are going. I'll tell you, over my time, I've done a lot of drugs in this life, but there is nothing that can compete with that high that you get from that feeling of about to walk out on stage.
Hmm.
And I just
Yeah.
that's and I just I've done it. Obviously, I've done the studio and I've done all that stuff, but it's just not the same, man. And, like people ask me all the time how much I play drums at the house. I don't really play that much at the house by myself, man. I mean, I get in moods where I want to, but other than that, I feed off of the energy of the crowd.
So growing up, how much time did you spend practicing?
So growing up, I went to drum lessons once a week for 30 minutes, and then I spent a lot of time playing growing up. Not as much as I probably should have, but I spent a lot of time just playing and jamming out. Um, but I never. I wish if I could go back, I would learn. I would focus on more technical stuff. Right, I've always focused on the basics, and I'm still, I can do a lot of cool stuff, but I've always focused on being solid, being in the pocket, and being good, but also hitting hard and putting on a show. And there's times I wish I'd go back and would learn more technical stuff. Like I don't know, I'm not big into rudiments, or I'm not big into reading drum music or anything like that.
Hmm.
But that's just one thing I wish if I could change is what I wish I could go back and change.
The important thing to know right now is that you have that ability to be right there in the pocket. You can lay down a good beat and you can be entertaining.
Oh yeah, I mean I hadn't played drums in a year, and one of my buddies called me a couple months ago on a week's notice, said he needed a drummer for a small place in Cushing, and I
Hmm.
showed up on like 3 days notice and 3 hours of material, and I nailed it. You never would have told, you never would have been able to tell. And I had so much fun. That's what ignited it back in me, man. There wasn't nowhere. There were probably 10 people there, man, but I had so much fun.
That's what it's all about, getting back in there and just having fun.
Yep. You
Being a
know,
drummer myself and being familiar with music, I can listen to a song first time and a lot of times I can grab my sticks and just start, figuring it out as it's going, first time hearing it. And I may not be perfect with it, but it's music, it's got structure. And majority of the
yep,
time it's going to follow that structure.
yep,
So after the first verse and chorus, you've already got, the feel for how many bars the pre-verse is or the bridge between
hmm,
verse and chorus, whatever. And so going through with it again, it's going to be the same thing.
yep, exactly. And I will going back to shows real quick. I will give some some of these bands advice that someone gave me not too long ago.
Let's hear it.
I'm managed by this lady named Kelly Pierce. She's from Seventh Planet out of Texas, and they do like Giovanni the Hired Guns. They do all the big stuff. They're huge artists. And I was playing with someone, and they were trying to make it, to that next level. And the thing that these bands that are trying to make it to that next level is, whether it's rock or country or whatever, is
Hmm.
quit playing 3 hour shows and quit playing casino 3 hour shows. That, in the eyes of a promoter, in the eyes of a booking agent and manager, those shows don't look good on you, right? Those shows where you're playing 3 sets at a casino all night, that doesn't really look good to a booking agent or a promoter or something, because it makes you look like you're, now one every now and then is cool, but one, playing every month at casino or twice a month at casino, it makes you look like that's all you are, is a like that's what they start looking at you like.
That's valid.
I mean, it should, and people don't understand that because the casinos pay so well. But
Hmm.
but at the end of the day, you fall into that category of being a casino band.
I hadn't thought of it like that, but that's just like, being labeled a bar band.
Hmm. Yep.
So yeah, what's the difference besides pay and size?
Yep. And I've always been real big on, I'll give up some pay to play a bigger show, right? Like I'll give up, instead of getting my $400 to play a show, I'll take 200 to go open up for someone in front of 20,000 people. You know what I mean?
A lot more energy.
Yeah, and it's funner, at the end of the day.
Hmm.
And that's another big difference with country and rock. And rock, when you're first starting out, and you're trying to tour, most of the people don't understand. A lot of these openers you see, especially these bands that come through and play the Brady or the Canes, they have to
Hmm.
pay money. They have to buy on those tours. They pay money to be on those tours. A lot of times it's like, okay, you can get 9 dates for $4,000, and
Hmm.
so you buy on the tour, and then you make your money back in merch and other stuff. But in country music, that's not really a thing. You don't do that. You don't buy on. You don't have to pay. You don't buy on. And openers for these country shows get paid stupid. I mean, get paid amazing.
Damn.
And that's another big thing. And I don't have an issue. That's a whole other topic. I don't have necessarily an issue sometimes with buying onto a tour, but I don't. I think there's a certain time and situation for it.
Okay. And see, I didn't realize that, you had to buy on it, to get into the tours.
Yeah. So the band that was main support for Buck Cherry, and we played with them, uh, bought onto that tour, and they paid like 10 grand for like, I want to say it was like 10 grand for like 15 shows, 10, 15 shows.
Jeez.
Yeah, but that's where people understand how big merch is, man.
Hmm.
Merch, there's nights where say we get paid 4 grand to play a show. Well, there's nights we make double that in merch. So if you buy onto a tour and you pay 10 grand to be on a tour, and you're playing 20 shows, but every night you're selling $1,000 of merch, you're making your money back plus some.
Oh yeah. So you gotta pay a little money to get these bigger shows to not
Yep.
only sell more merch, but to get your music out there to other people to where people will be, you know, looking for your CDs, looking for your music online,
Hmm.
um, making new fans and new followers so that maybe next time you come around, you can headline your own little smaller show.
And that's how ideally it's supposed to work, right? It's
Hmm.
ideally to break it to a new market, you go open up for someone bigger in that market, maybe once or twice, and then when you go back, people have seen your name and they've heard your music, so you can play a bar there and people are going to come see you. And I mean,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, there's a lot of places, especially in Texas, that it doesn't matter if it's the Teletubbies playing, it's going to be packed assholes to elbows and people dancing all night. So, but there's a lot of places that, I mean, it's hard to draw a crowd sometimes.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that in the Tulsa and Oklahoma City industry. You know, it is hard sometimes. What's your take on overplaying certain markets? Like, a band, let's just say, oh, Joliet. Joliet, Illinois. Just throw out a name, whatever. Um, it's just sitting there playing show after show after show in Joliet, same venues, just on repeat, versus actually making it out and playing other venues. What's your take on like oversaturation and overplaying?
Well, and it's the same thing here in Tulsa. I mean, you got these bands that want to play twice a month or every weekend somewhere. I mean, people are only going to want to people are only going to want to come see you. You got to make them want to come see you, right?
Hmm.
Why would I go see this band tonight when they just played here or down the street last weekend? You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah.
and like like the bands that all the bands I've played with, especially in the country business when I'm managing and booking shows, they have in the contracts they have you can't play like in a 90-mile or 120-mile radius of that show for like 3 or 4 months before that show. You know, because and that's just like you got live bands that play like Tulsa and then they'll go play a casino and like Durant. You know,
Hmm.
now that's not necessarily that big of a deal, but why would I pay to see you here this night when you're going to be here this next night and I can get tickets cheaper or it's better, or it's different or you got to make
You're
people
gonna be out
want
of
you got to make
Rocklahoma in 5 weeks.
yeah yeah and that's the thing too, as you got to make people miss you and make people want the music, play a show in a market and absolutely kill it, and then book your second show. Don't wait so long. Book your second show not in a couple of weeks, but maybe in 3 or 4 months. Then
Hmm.
you're still hot. You're still hot, fresh on people's minds. And then before you go in there, a month before your show, you start blasting the radio. You call radio stations, radio interviews. You start promoting it. You start blasting stuff, and the people are gonna remember your name. You're still hot. Then they come. You know, and then you can start playing those places every 6 months or whatever you want to do. Yeah, that's the biggest mistake these bands make is oversaturating, overplaying their markets.
Do you think it's possible to um, over over publicize events? Like, hey, we're gonna be playing, you know, Shawnee, Oklahoma in a month, and then just like nonstop. That's all they post about is we're playing Shawnee, we're playing Shawnee, we're playing Shawnee. Do you think that can be a buzz killer too, or do you think that would help?
If if it's done the right way, it helps, right? I mean, if you go to a band's page on Facebook and every single post is about that, then that's not a good look. But
Hmm.
if they post it and then they're posting other stuff and they post it again, and what I mean, that's there's nothing wrong with that, and that's good promotion. Even a lot of times bands don't understand. You can book a show somewhere. Say I book a show in Oregon. I can go on my band's Facebook page and create an ad with a flyer for the show and spend $10 and go and select that region where that show's at, and 10,000 people are going to see that flyer.
Hmm.
And it's Facebook promotion is cheap, man, and it's the best way to go because you
Yeah.
can, you can select not only the area, you can select your target audience, you can select everything.
Hmm.
And
I looked into that myself. Yeah.
yep,
I
that's the
mean,
big
I've
deal.
said it for a while. Like I have my Facebook group that's it's called Saint Anger Promotions. It's free for anybody to get in there and advertise. I support all local business, and I'm sure you'd agree that anything in the local music industry is business.
No,
You're trying to make
100%,
money. And so, it's
100%.
local business, but then, you have your people that will do um, cups and t-shirts and hats and stuff just right out of their home, making
Yep.
the extra bucks, a few bucks. I have a friend in Perry. Good shout out to her. She makes stained glass. Her latest one that she posted was a big old flamingo. And why not help her, give her free advertising to
Mm-hmm.
who knows who. Um, now that I'm talking about it, hell, who's to say that you won't go on there and check out Avalon Glassworks? And No, this isn't a paid promotion or anything. I don't charge. um, go look at some of her stuff and be like, oh hell yeah, make me some stained glass. Here's what I
Yep.
want. How much will you charge me?
And I'm big on that. Even when I'm on the road, I I
Mhm.
don't go to Guitar Center. I don't go to Guitar Center. And when I'm home, Drum World's my home shop. I've been going there for what?
Yes.
Been going there forever. Drum World and Matt Donaldson over there is amazing. And
Oh
when I'm
yeah.
on the road, I find the hometown small music shop. I don't go waste my money
Hmm.
at Guitar Center. I go spend it with the guy who owns the shop and spends 12 hours a day working there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, we have one of those right here, right over here in Ponca City. That it's called the Music Suite. The guy Joel and his dad. I've known Joel since I was a teenager, going in there and buying drum stuff. Like we go way back, but yeah, I'd rather go, support him than to support the big dogs.
Yep. Yep.
But then again, there's stuff that he can't get that um, somebody else can get.
Yep. And that's an issue too. Uh, sometimes those places don't have the selection or what you need, like a Guitar Center will. Um,
Hmm.
and being on the road, man, you never know what you may need. I'm the world's worst at ending at the end of the show because I break so many drumsticks anyway. But between breaking drumsticks and giving drumsticks out and signing drumsticks, I'm on the way to the next show and go, hey, bro, I realized I don't have any drumsticks. We gotta pull in here. I gotta grab drumsticks. Like I'm
Whoops.
the world's worst at that. All the, you have to get my guys that I played with before. I probably out of 10 shows, 8 of them we had to stop off and buy drumsticks on the way.
Wow. How many times have you had to stop off and buy drum heads?
Uh, I always keep some with us, so I don't ever had to stop off and do that. I always keep backup snare drum, and then I always keep backup heads with me. I'd like to when I'm on the road playing consistently, when I'm playing every night, playing 5 nights out of the week for months at a time. I change my heads pretty regularly. Um,
Hmm.
I just got this acrylic set, and it's my first acrylic set, and I've only took it out and played live once, so I'm still kind of trying to figure out how to get that kind of sounding like I want to. Almost have it perfect, but there's a couple of things I need to kind of work on. But um, and it's but I'm real big on you got to take care of your equipment, man. You have to. This is how we make our
Yes.
money, how we live our lives. You
Hmm.
know, SKB
Oh yeah.
hard cases those SKB hard cases have saved my life. You don't know how many nights I've come out of a show tired with my drums in those cases and literally have thrown them in the back of a trailer. But they're hard and padded, and that's what they're meant for.
Good shout out to them then.
Oh, big shout out to them. Yeah.
Yeah. Got to protect that equipment. Absolutely. Um, so do you ever just like sign your used drum heads after you're done with
Oh,
them and throw them out like
yeah.
frisbees in the middle of your
Uh,
show?
most of the time, I take my used drum heads and before we play, I'll sign them and have the guy sign them, and I'll put one at the merch booth. And either try because I've been on the road sometimes, man. Especially when you're playing smaller stuff, you need to get every money you can, So I'll put out there for 20
Hmm.
bucks. You know what I mean? And then um, there's been times where I have at the end of the show took my drum head, sat there and took my drum head off my drum and signed it and gave it to him. There was a time I took when I played with Luke. We played in Minnesota one night, and at the other night at the club we played, I took my kick drum head off that said Luke Christensen on it, and we all signed it, and they hung it up on their wall.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm real big about that. I've done that with broke cymbals and cracked cymbals before, man. A lot of stuff. I'm
And
real
those make
big
the
on.
best symbols, though.
Hey, but I go through them so much, especially now I got this new cymbal deal, man. But uh, I want people to remember the experience. You got to
Mhm.
set yourself apart.
Yes, you do. So you was talking about your acrylic set, trying to get it tuned in exactly how you want. How often do you find front of house engineers just you know regardless of how you sound or how you think you sound, they could take it and tweak it EQ it just right, add just the right amount of compression, the right gates and everything, and just make it sound absolutely beautiful. Yet you thought it sounded like trash.
Oh, I tell you though, a front of house man can make or break can make or break can make or break your show. Uh,
Hmm.
uh, uh, can make or break your show. But it just depends on what level you're at. A lot of times we have our own guy that traveled with us that knew everything that we did. And sometimes you get to places and the sound man makes it sound horrible. Or sometimes you get there and you can't believe how good you sound. That's one of my favorite things to do after sound check is I go stand in the middle of the room and I have someone play my drums.
Okay. Do you ever
Just
listen
so I
in
can.
for line check or any of that where they do the initial checks?
I really don't listen to them. Like I don't listen to a line check when they're all doing it. I just after everything's done, I have someone just play mine so I can go out and I can listen. I can focus on the tone of it and I can focus on you know how the bass drum is thumping or how it sounds. That way, not only if in my mind if I need to tell the sound guy to do something, but also so I know when I'm on stage playing what it sounds like. And if something's, if like the bass drum's really thumping and really hitting hard, I know I need to probably not just beat the shit out of my bass drum the whole night. I could probably lay off on a little bit, you know. And, and there's a lot of times, especially playing like smaller places where people, sound guys will mic my whole drum set, and then at the end of the night they'll come up to me and they'll go, "Dude, after the first song, I turned all the mics off other than your bass drum because you were just hitting so hard." And that's the biggest thing, man. A good sound man will make a show. A bad sound man will absolutely ruin a show.
Oh yeah. Um, what's your thoughts and opinions on like the amount of bass during a live performance? Like especially in either or rock music, country, both. Um, like the volume and the tone of the bass. How important is that? Like would you rather have it booming and loud, or would you rather have it like backed off and maybe a
Well,
little
it
under the music?
it depends on the room. I like a good thumping bass. I like a good thumping kick drum.
Hmm.
Um, you know, I have this thing that you plug cord into your throne and it vibrates your throne with the bass. But
Hmm.
um, but out front, I like a good thumping bass. It doesn't not to where it's so overpowering that you can single it out, but to where you can hear it and and you can feel it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I'm real
That's
big
cool that
on
they
that.
do that.
Yeah, but with in ears, because we travel with that's how we do our stuff. We travel with in ear set, and we have a digital mixer and with a split snake. We plug everything into the digital mixer, and then the sound man plugs everything into his split snake. We control our own monitor mixes from our phone, and can control all
Okay.
of our own monitor mixes and everything like that. So, you know, in the middle of a show, because I have a real bad habit of going deaf the longer the show goes on, and my stuff gets to be blaring. So I have to keep turning it up, or I can adjust it myself without having to tell a sound man, "Hey, less, more, less, more." And that's a big help.
I bet. Being audio production myself. Um, so I love that you meant that you're really starting to hype up the in ears for these smaller bands that they're doing well, but they're not like traveling all over. Sell them in ears. Like why do you want it? Describe the benefits between the in ears and the floor wedges.
All right, so the number one thing is going to be stage volume, right? So
Yes.
most of the time when we play, you won't see an amp on stage at all.
Or running things
Everyone
like line six and stuff like that.
you won't see any amp. They plug in their pedal board and they DI out the pedal board
Hmm.
into the mix. so it creates less stage volume, which is easier for the front of house guy to mix. And
Yes.
also, when if you want to take that next level and you got to get to that next level, you have to use a click track. I mean, and that's just people may not want to hear that, and people may want to argue with me about it,
Yeah.
but you get to that level and everyone plays with a click track because it just makes you got to plan out your shows, right? You plan out your show so
Time
that you
code and
yes everything and
yeah.
I've opened up for
Lighting,
guys.
pyro.
Yeah. I played with guys who literally at the beginning of the show hit play on their computer and the whole show was mapped out. They never stopped playing. I mean, it just went from one to the other, the other. Just you know. And so a click track is a big deal. And of course, you can't have a click track if you have wedges. You have to have in-ears for those. And
Hmm.
you don't have to go out and buy expensive wireless in your monitor rig or anything like that. For the longest time, me being a drummer, I was the only one that used a click track for the longest time, and I just had just a little mixer behind me with a wire going up my back, a wired in it. Cost me $40. And
Hmm.
then the guys in the band before we got in ears had a headphone cable that went up right next to the guitar cable, and they just plugged in with a wire. So you can start out even just like that. You don't have to go out and spend 7, 8, 900 bucks on a wireless in-ear monitor set. Now,
Man, that's some good
uh,
advice.
yeah, now I absolutely love my in-ears, my wireless in-ear set, but I still will play with my wired in-ears if I need to,
Hmm.
and
Always have that
and
backup.
always have that backup. And then I'll tell people that I'll tell people a good advice when you play with in-ears is not also the good thing with in-ears is talkback mics, right? That's real big. Talkback
Yes.
mics. So
Yes.
most of the time, some guys have them right on stage in front of everybody, but most artists have them kind of off the stage where the singer or guitar player or someone can walk over and say something in the mic, and
Hmm.
everyone with that's got in-ears in can hear it, and your sound guy's got the in-ears in, your monitor guy's got the in-ears
Hmm.
in, your tech's got the in-ears in. They can all hear it, but no one out front can hear it. Or as I'm playing drums, I can lean back in my talkback mic and go, all right, we're gonna end it on three, 1, 2, 3, and boom. I can go, let's take another verse, and you can communicate with the guys.
Hmm.
That's a big deal too with in-ears.
It is. Have you thought about using like a lapel mic? I mean, you wouldn't really be able to do it unless you clipped it to a wire if you were playing shirtless. But um, just for any normal drummer that's playing one way or another, have a little lapel mic. Um, because hell, I
You know,
remember those running sound for church.
I've never really thought about that, man. Honestly, I just have my own mic stand that's always behind me. If I do backup vocals, I got to be careful. I have to have one marked because a lot of times I'll sing backup vocals in one that no one can hear, and I'll talk on the one people can hear. But
Whoops.
I just have a lot of times I have it just behind me, or I have it real kind of down low, and I just lean down and talk into it. And
Mhm.
that's man, it's such a lifesaver, and it's such people don't understand how much that helps and how great that is because it's we all know it's hard to communicate with each other when you're on stage. But
Yeah.
when you got in ears in, and the stage volume isn't loud, and you got your in ears in, you can talk to each other through a microphone. It's easy,
Hmm.
So
Absolutely.
and don't go out and spend 2, 3, 400 bucks on a pair of Shure headphones, man. Go to Amazon and you get some CCAs, or you just search in your monitors and get your
Hmm.
20, 30, $40 pair. They're the same internals as the Shures and everything, and they last as long, if not longer. And you're spending 20, 30 bucks on something instead of 2, 3, 400 bucks.
Dude, you make a good salesman.
Uh, like I said, man. I was talking to my guy the other day about this. I've done this for so long that I know what works and know what doesn't work, and also I know the performance side of it, but I also know the business side and the back end of it too very well.
Oh, you kind of have to, especially being independent and stuff. You have to be able to know the business side of it.
Yeah, and like I said, I've always been the guy. I've always been the manager of the band, and I've always been the booking agent. And I've always kind of took control of all that stuff, just because I'm the one that's going to get it done.
Hmm.
I
Somebody's got
always
to
tell
do it.
everyone, yeah, I always tell everyone like when I played with Luke Richardson, the guy we won the country music award with. I said, man, look, you don't worry about nothing but writing music and singing. I'll do everything else. My management company just called me a couple months ago and said that there's this guy named Caleb. He used to play with a big country band named Treaty Oak Revival. They play arenas. They're headlining the big country festival here in Pryor. He used to play with them, and he left them and started his own stuff. Millions of streams, great music, and he
Hmm.
lives in Texas. And she called me and had me play with him, and we're getting the ball rolling on that. And I told him the same thing, brother. Look, you don't worry about nothing other than writing music and singing, and I'll make sure everything else is taken care of.
So that having somebody like that within the band can save you some time and save you some money.
Yeah, and also it makes you look more professional, right? Uh,
Hmm.
when you show up someplace or you're trying to book someplace, first off, when you show up someplace, the singer shouldn't be the one that has to go up and handle business, right? He's got stuff he's got to worry, but other stuff he's got to take care of. Now, when you're booking a show, I'm always real big on when I email and when I'm booking shows, I use an
Hmm.
email address with a different name, so that way they don't think it's someone in the band trying to book the show.
Okay.
And then I book the show, and then the show's booked, and I tell them, okay, cool. When you get there, Dylan, the drummer, is your point of contact.
I definitely understand that.
Okay, in this business, just like in life, perception is reality.
Hmm. It
You
is.
know, perception is reality, and the more that
Mhm.
you can carry yourself and hold yourself to a higher standard, like they say, you want to surround yourself with people who you want to, who where you want to be, right? So
Yes.
you want to treat that and treat everyone like that. You want to act like you're professional. You're that next level.
Hmm.
You know.
Absolutely. So, where do you see yourself in the future for music? The next 10, 15, 20 years?
Man, so I'd like to see myself back. Hopefully, after I heal up from this little wreck I got into, hopefully I get back and start playing, and hopefully this year I'm back on the road playing big stuff again, and and hopefully in the next 10 years I see myself playing arenas and stuff like that. But also, part of me necessarily wouldn't mind keeping my day job, getting a good day job and find a good group of guys here and just, getting in a badass cover band and playing once a month and making money. But
Hmm.
I'll never not play music, you know. And it's just that I and it's hard for me to say that wouldn't mind playing the cover band in Tulsa because I couldn't imagine not playing music on the road. But I have a family. I have an 8-year-old boy, man. It's playing sports and stuff, and being on the road like that, you miss a lot of stuff.
Yes, you do.
And also, the lifestyle's not healthy, man. I mean, people could, like I always tell people, all these big musicians, bigger guys, they don't do drugs, they don't drink, they don't party, you know. And when you first get to that level, that's what you think it's all about. And that lifestyle's rough, man, out there, man. That lifestyle can be rough.
Yes, it can be. So, what what can you talk about with any current projects that you got going on and your roles within?
So right now, man, really, I'm kind of opening. The main thing I going on right now is my marriage with this guy, like I was talking about, but his name is Caleb Jones. It's the Caleb Jones Band. We're gearing up for just. to start hitting it hard, playing some big shows. That's pretty the only thing I have set in stone working right now. Um, I am in the process. Obviously, this wreck kind of set me back, but once I get healed up, I plan to hit it hard again, man, and start auditioning for bands again and start going places. I'm the person that even though I'm in Tulsa, I played with bands in Minnesota. I played with bands in Florida. It doesn't matter. I'll play with bands anywhere. That doesn't matter. So I'm back. Once I get healed up, I'm just back on my grind, man, trying to make it happen, and hopefully in the next 10 years, playing arenas and then back doing what I was doing. But it's
Just don't be jumping off the drum sets for a while. Let yourself
hey,
heal up.
I'm so I'm getting to the age now to where if I jump on a drum set, my knees hurt for a week.
Yeah, let's not do that.
Yeah,
You kind of need your knees.
yeah, I need all three of them: my left knee, my right knee, and my wee knee.
I mean, I mean, so
What do you think about sizzle reels needed or just booking agent sell YouTube venues? So, Travis, to answer that question I just saw, most of the bigger venues that you're gonna want to get into, right? Like you can book by yourself a lot of these smaller places, like a lot of these bars that hold a couple hundred people. But once you start getting into, especially in country and everything else, and rock when you're trying to get on tours and stuff, it's those places you have to go through someone to get there, right? Those places have a certain person that's their job is to contact booking agents to get bands. So to an extent, you can do a lot of it by yourself, and the band can do a lot of booking by themselves. But if you want to take it to that next step, that next level, you have to find yourself a great booking manager, that a booking agent that has some connections to get in those bigger places. Because just as a band going up there, emailing them or calling them, you're not gonna get in there like that.
so Dylan, meet Travis. Travis is actually releasing some new music, um, really, really soon.
Is he? He just sent me a request on Facebook not long ago. So
Nice. Oh, look at this, making connections. This is exactly what I've dreamed of, been dreaming of, is making connections with basically strangers.
yep,
And, two people now in the music industry connecting through my stuff. The power
yep.
of networking.
And
Um,
going back to this booking thing real quick too. Another advice I can give
yeah,
everybody, man, is
let's hear it.
you need to have a professional EPK press kit that you send out, or a lot of times that's a website, but that you send out, and all they do is they click the link, and it has everything from your bio, your shows, it has links to your music videos, live videos, everything they need to know is in that. So you're not because when you start emailing these places trying to book shows and you're sending them links to YouTube and stuff like that, they don't look at that. They want to be able to click on a press kit and see everything they need to know, and also a website, a legit, really good looking website, will go a long way. And when you book shows, make sure you add them on your event calendars on Facebook and on your calendar, because these people that when you're trying to book shows, they go look at your schedule and see where else you're playing. So
Mhm.
you want to have all that stuff listed on there. One, so people know where you're playing, and two, you look more professional. And three, if I'm trying to book a big club and they go on my band's page and see I haven't played a big club, they're not going to book me. But if they go on there and see that I'm playing four of the biggest clubs in every other state around, then I'll get booked.
Yeah, they want a piece of that action,
Yep, it's all about
but
looking
they know,
professional,
but they got
man.
to know they can do it.
Yep, it's all about looking professional, and looking the part is the first step. Is how you get in the door, right? They always say you got only one first impression.
Yes. And if you're putting out some negative negative vibes, I'll tell you right now, I wouldn't want to book you.
Exactly. You know, or if you're,
I want to see that you can be human and you can get out there and play. You have
yeah,
really good music.
or you know, if you're sending these venues and these people some poorly shot video of you playing somewhere in front of two people or some crappy recording, you know, why would they book you? You know,
Hmm.
I mean, you know, I've been blessed to be a part of, you know, several songs that got millions of streams on it. I mean, that that helps us get. I mean, that's the first thing they do is look at your Spotify numbers and they look at, you know, your where you're popping up, you know, where you're hitting the most at and where your what songs are playing the most. And I mean, that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing. That's the first step and the biggest start to getting your foot in the door is a professional press kit, professional website, and making sure that everything on there looks professional.
Yes, I mean because I'll tell you, when I'm booking shows, like when I booked February 15th at the Bowman, um, you know, I am becoming a representation of them, working with them, and then working with these bands. I want to know that these bands are going to be able to come in and put on a good show and make that venue look good.
Yeah, I mean, as a
I
talent
don't want
buyer,
them to be known for bringing in bad talents.
yeah, I mean, as a talent buyer slash booking agent, your name's on the line too, really. You know, I mean, if you book this band
Hmm.
and they come in and they don't draw a crowd and they put on a bad show and they act like assholes, it makes you look bad too.
Yeah, absolutely. It all comes back to being seen by who knows who.
Yep.
When you got social media out here that's as big as it is, being seen by people from all over, literally around the world.
Hmm. Yep. And also one of the main things I've always focused on, man, is I build a brand for myself. I'm my own brand outside of the band, right? I sell my own merch with my own stuff on it. You know, I eventually I want to branch out into acting. I want to branch out into other stuff, you know, and build a brand off myself and off my name. So, you know, when you come to see one of my shows with one of my bands, you'll see a whole bunch of the band's merch, and then you'll see two or three of my shirts, a hoodie, a hat, you know, stuff that's just my merch.
Hmm.
You know, and that's what people got to understand too. It's the bigger you can build, the the more publicity you can get, even if it's not the band that like the singer can get in the band, or the more bigger name he can build, or the more he can branch out and get more attention, the bigger attention the band's gonna get.
Hmm.
Like there's a
But
there's a
that can
badass.
also have a negative impact. Oh, go ahead.
If
Go
yeah,
ahead.
it can have a big negative effect if you're out there being an asshole,
Hmm.
you know. But like you got this band full of young guys out here, and I think they're from Claremore Prior. Oh man, I just drew a blank on their name. Man, they played Oklahoma. They're playing again this year. Oh, what's their
I'm gonna
name?
have to pull that up.
Yeah, but anyway, they're a whole bunch of kids, and their singer or their guitar player has a huge social media for like millions and millions and millions of views on on TikTok and stuff, and that's how they get their following, and he's a big social media person. Let's see what the
Wow.
name is. See if I can remember what the name of this band is real quick while we're talking about it.
Right.
'Cause
So
I
yeah,
always
while we're look,
yeah
huh?
people need to go check them out. They are called um man man hang on a second. I'll find them in just 2 seconds. Uh, but yeah, man, that's real big, man. It's with social media nowadays, man. You have to be able to branch out on that also, right? You have to use that to your advantage.
Absolutely. And like we said, you also got to watch that negative impact too, where you get in there and you're saying stuff on your social media that you shouldn't be, being um, pretty out there with your views on topics, and that's gonna put not only the negative impact on you, but if you're with a band, whatever band you're with, you are a representation of them. So when
The
you're out
band is called
there,
Eyebolt.
eyebolt. Okay,
Yep.
yeah, yeah.
Glenn Glenn Townsend is their guitar player, and he is a amazing guitar player. He's got social media following like crazy. They're young kids that dress in that and dress like old school '80s bands.
Okay. So yeah, anybody going? Well, doesn't matter if you're going to Oklahoma or not. Check out eyebolt. Great
Yep,
Oklahoma band. You're not lying with that.
definitely. They're definitely the next up and coming band. So is Dime Store Riot, man. I tell you, Dime Store Riot, those guys are hitting it hard, man. I love their music. I love listening to those guys.
Absolutely. And hell, they're
And
usually my camping neighbors out there in Oklahoma.
yeah, and I kicked myself that I didn't make time for that. But yeah, that was they're all of those guys such cool people and girl too, JP. All such good people.
Yes, they are. Um,
And also back to in-ears, they make rehearsal so much easier, man. Because all of us musicians have been in rehearsals where everyone's amps cranked, you got a PA cranks, you hear your vocals, and everything kind of mumbles together. With in-ears,
hmm
you don't have to have any amps on, you don't have to have any noise going. You can hear everything perfectly clear.
Yes, you can. Um, tell us a little bit about basically going without amps on stage. What kind of equipment do they use?
So I think they're called halos. They're pedal boards, like
That's what I was thinking. Yes.
helix. They're helixes.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. So most of them use helix pedal boards. They just have a direct out to and use direct out it into the board. Bass
hmm
DIs. But when you do that, the only thing that as a downfall of that is it makes everything the stage look empty. So you always want to have something on some kind of prop on stage or some kind of something on stage just because especially playing bigger stages when you're running with no amps and nothing on stage other than a drum set looks kind of bare, you know.
hmm
So you just got to make sure that you put other props out there or you position the stage to where it doesn't look like that.
Or you become the props.
Or yeah, exactly. Or exactly.
Entertain.
If you're good enough if you're a good enough band, you're gonna be entertaining enough. It shouldn't matter.
Yeah. Um, because at the end of the day, we're there to see the band, not the light show, not the pyro, um, not all the the wall of amplifiers and stuff like that. We're there to see the band and experience the music.
Yep.
The other stuff is just extra, which I've seen it. I've been in conversation in a video where it's like, why are we having so much stuff in these shows now? Where it takes a full day, 2 days or more to get it all set up. You know, whatever happened to the music? And my thing with that is that how often do we hear that it's always the same boring thing? Music is music. We've seen one band, we've seen them all. So that's kind of made a competition in the tech world and in entertainment. The actual, all sense of the word entertainment is put a competition in there to where you want to have the better light show or you want to have the better pyro. Um, you know, you want to be a more active guitarist or whatever, or the drummer that's hanging from rafters in a venue just to liven up the show.
Yep. Yeah.
Do you ever wish we could go back to just having the show or music, or do you think we should
you know,
continue?
I think we should continue with what we're doing. I'm, I I think that adds to a lot of the effect, right? So, for instance,
Mhm.
I saw Slipknot one tour, and it was the only tour they decided to do no pyro, and it
Hmm.
then I saw them again with all the pyro and everything, and it made a difference on the show, you know. But once again,
Mhm.
and people make fun of me all the time, you know, what kind of music do you listen to? What do you listen to? I don't listen to music. I don't listen to music. I can't tell you what's popular right now. I don't listen to music. I drive in the car with the radio off just because music's such a part of my life that unless I have to play the song, I don't really listen to it. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
so, and of course, you know, us being musicians, when we go to shows, we look at concerts differently than other people look at them. You know,
Yes.
you critique stuff, you look at different things, you notice different things. But I think for the average
Mhm.
fan, that makes the experience, it makes it a whole better experience. Seeing the big lights and the pyro and the, you know, all that stuff. You know, like I went and saw Shinedown
Mhm.
not that long ago, but they were so loud, like my chest hurt, and they're probably one of the best shows I've ever seen.
You went home feeling it.
Oh, I felt it the next morning.
Mhm. But no, I tell you what, though, you're not wrong that even in the tech industry, we go to shows, and well, I speak for myself. There's a lot of times, I get lost in the tech world. Looking at the lighting, looking at watching the cameras, watching the text on in the background. I'm interested in what front of house looks like, what kind of setups they have, and it's I forget that there's a band on stage.
Yep.
I'm in
But
the
you know,
music, but
also the
yeah.
catch 22 that is I went and saw Uncle Ted Nugent not that long ago, and
Hmm.
they didn't have no light show, no pyro, no nothing. It was an hour and a half of a badass show, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was an amazing show. Watched every moment of it, loved it. I saw Cheap Trick, same thing. You know, no pyro, not really that big of a light show. They were fucking amazing.
Hmm.
You know, so I think a lot of it is just a lot of it also depends on the band, right? A lot of it depends on the audience. You know, this younger generation now of people almost expect to see that, you know, expect to see a show, expect to see lights, expect to see pyro, expect to see that stuff. So when they don't, I feel like this younger generation, they I feel like music is getting less and less and less appreciated. To be honest with you, live
It
music.
does seem like that. Hmm.
Yep.
But I've seen Metallica 2019 at the BOK, and one of the things that they did was the little drones during one of their songs. I don't. It was off one of the newer albums, but with that song, they sent up the drones, and they fly around, do their thing, then back down. And I believe they were like the first band to be able to actually incorporate stuff like that. They had a lot of hoops to
Yep.
jump through to do it, but it
Yep.
just it added to that song,
100%.
made that song a lot more special.
Yep. It makes you at the end of the day, you want to do something that when people leave, they'll remember that, right? Like I'm the reason why I started playing drums is Tommy Lee. I'm a huge Tommy Lee fan, and he's done the roller coaster out in the crowd. Back in the '80s,
Hmm.
he's done the roller coaster across the whole venue, and he did the flipping drum. Like that's stuff that people leave, and they're not going to see anywhere else, and they're going to remember that forever.
Hmm.
You know?
We do. That when it comes to the technical aspect, that whole roller coaster thing, like you said, back in the 80s and 90s and stuff, the advancements that we've made in researching the venue, the roof structure, the weight capacities. It's
Hmm.
amazing some of the stuff that they've hung, like a roller coaster for a moving drum set. That's not a stationary load. That is a load that is shifting across the whole ceiling. There wasn't, to my knowledge, a lot of research back then on what the load bearing capacities are for each aspect.
Hmm.
because back to like the Metallica shows when they have those boxes that come down. They got the video screens, they got the lights in them. It's that's a lot of movement and a lot of force on those rafters and stuff, those
You know,
beams.
also back then though, back in the 80s and 90s stuff, you didn't have people that were so worried about safety like they are now, right?
Hmm.
Back then, there wasn't a safety man making sure that everything was. It was just do what you want to do. Like when that fire happened with Great White, and when that club burned down, you know,
Hmm.
there was no one to tell you what you can and can't do back then. Now it's completely different.
Oh, it is. But on the flip side of that, do you think it's a good thing that the industry is more safety conscious?
At the end of the day, obviously, yes, I do. Now, if you were to ask me that while I was playing drums live, I would tell you no. But you know, lo- obviously, I think that there's a lot of things um, that could go wrong that can be prevented nowadays. Um,
Hmm.
but when I'm climbing a rafter on the side of a stage, I really don't care about that. You know what I mean?
Right. Um, yeah, I mean, that's true. So being a drummer, I'm sure you played up on risers before and pre-show, moments before, they call show, we're going live. It's dark. A lot of times it's dark. And to get up there on those risers, you miss a step, you get hurt.
It's over with. I'll tell you, the
But,
the biggest lifesaver is go out. Everyone needs to go out and buy themselves either that lime green, bright green duct tape, bright pink
mm-hmm.
duct tape, and you run it
Mark
along
those
the edges,
edges.
mark those edges, baby.
Yeah. How many bands and techs thought about that back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s?
Exactly.
And luckily, there wasn't a lot more accidents with, building collapses from too much weight being hung or, the drummer or guitarist or somebody coming up on a riser and falling off of it. We still have recent accidents where, they've fallen off the front of the stage and stuff. We do still have accidents, but think of how many more could have been.
Hmm.
I mean,
Exactly.
hell, you put your life on the line every night that you sit underneath those lights. You get one that's right above you that comes loose or, falls straight down. That's going to hurt.
And especially in the moment, people don't understand. That adrenaline dump you get. Your mind sometimes isn't thinking about stuff like that. You're just in that adrenaline dump ready
Mhm.
to start playing. You're not thinking about taking that extra step that's an inch higher. You know what I mean? Or you're not thinking about where the end of the stage is, or you know.
And I tell you what, though, that's where it's important to know that you go see your show. You go watch Dillon Escue play with such and such band. That show has been in the planning stages for a long time, and like for these big tours, you mentioned Buck Cherry. Those are not overnight pop-up shows. Those big tours are planned for upwards to over a year.
Hmm.
Making sure all the logistics is all planned out, all the
And then
safety aspects all
and then
planned out.
and not even just that. Like when Machine Gun Kelly played, when MGK played down here, he spent
Hmm.
it was his first. It was like one of the first shows of the tour. He spent like 2 weeks at the arena in Oklahoma City with the full stage and pyro and everything running through his show for 2 weeks straight. You know,
Hmm.
so when you go see these bigger shows like that, that's one thing you got. Even though some of the stuff may not look like it, everything is planned out to a T.
Yeah, that goes back to some of that click track and um, running tracks on stage and stuff. People get a lot of hate. One of them, Ronnie Radke, with Falling in Reverse. Look at all the hate
Yep.
he's gotten and the band's gotten for a laptop. What happened with it on wrong flight or something? and it hurt the show.
But they go,
So
but they
they
go
got a lot
watch
of hate
Kiss.
about it.
But they go watch like a band like Kiss, who that's all they use is backtracks. You know.
Hmm. A lot of people don't realize that though. But then, when the show can't go on or
Hmm.
it's not the same, they get hell for it.
Yep.
But here's the reality of it. It's been talked about many times, and not just here, but elsewhere. Those tracks and stuff, you look at some of those, like Watch the World Burn, um, and a few of those other songs, that it's this heavy track presence at first, and then all of a sudden, here's this big band intro. You got old Luke and everybody else just coming in hard and heavy. It's difficult to reproduce all that live on stage,
Yep. Especially
especially
with
if you're
technology
doing
stuff.
strings. Yeah.
Well, back. So I have one of those rolling 8 trigger pads that I use back here in the back.
Hmm.
And I can do all kinds of different stuff with it.
Yes, you can. Extra effects. You can run. I think you can run triggers through it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Um. No. For the drummers that might be against triggers, sell some on the triggers and stuff.
So my pad. So my rolling pad that is triggered. That I absolutely love that. Right. So when it comes to triggering drums,
Hmm.
there's a good the one of the main selling points is you know drums sound different in every single in every room. In any room you make
Yes.
your drum set may sound amazing in one room. You take it to the next room, it's gonna sound horrible. With triggers, you're gonna get the exact sound you want every time.
Hmm.
You know, you're gonna get that sound that you want. You can make your drums sound just like they sound on the album. You can you're gonna get that same sound. You don't have to worry about you know different sounding rooms and then also it's Um, there's so much different things you can do with those nowadays.
Hmm.
You know, and
What kind of stuff can you do with them?
oh man, you can make your drums one moment sound like drums, and then the next minute you can hit a drum and make it sound like a duck. You can make it sound like someone talking. We all hear those old '80s songs that got that deep reverb on the snare.
Hmm.
You can one song have a normal snare, then the next song make the snare sound like that. You know,
And then make it sound like a marching drum, and
yeah, make it whatever you want to sound like.
get a nice little
Same,
piccolo snare.
yeah, it's the same with bass drums and triggering the bass drum. You can have a bass drum and make an 18-inch bass drum sound like a giant 24 just because it's triggered.
Ooh, a 24-inch jazz kick. Ooh,
I used to. That's
that
all
sound
I.
of it.
So that's all I used to play up until I got this was a 24-inch kick until I got this set.
Man.
But it's also because I'm so
That
tall. I'm so tall. I look goofy behind a drum set a lot of times.
just makes it more of a platform for you to stand on.
Oh yeah, for sure,
Yeah.
for sure.
Um, so with that snare drum thing and running triggers, so I could take just a cheap generic 6 lug metal snare drum and make it sound like a 10 or 12 lug piccolo.
You could take a plastic trash can lid and put a trigger on it and make it sound like a piccolo.
Ooh.
So all the triggers do is they feel your vibration when you hit, and that's what triggers the trigger. So you can literally put a trigger on anything and hit it, and it'll trigger back and make it sound like whatever you want to sound like.
Hmm. And it almost acts as a gate too, wouldn't it? Like from the sound tech perspective, you want that mic on your cymbal to open up when you hit that cymbal, or your snare drum mic to open up when you hit that snare drum. Without gates, you could hit anything else, and that mic is just always going to be on.
Hmm.
So with a trigger, that would almost be like a gate, wouldn't it?
Yep. Yeah. It would be. When you're playing live, the drum mics really don't pick up a whole bunch of extra stuff. I mean, they pick up the extra drums. I saw something pretty cool the
Hmm.
other day. This guy, he's a guitar player for White Snake and plays for Trans Siberian Orchestra, but he came to Tulsa the other day, and he's got on his microphone, he's got a motion
Hmm.
detector, so that whenever he gets close to the microphone, it turns his microphone on, and then whenever he's backed up and he's not singing, his microphone's off because so that way it doesn't pick up the drums and the extra stuff in the back. It's pretty cool, actually.
A motion sensor gate.
Yep, on his microphone. So
That's
whenever he
freaking
gets in
cool.
range, it turns on the mic, and whenever he backs up, he's not singing, the mic turns off.
That's freaking awesome.
Yeah, I didn't even know they did that.
Uh-uh. And that make things really easy. Ha.
Yep.
And so, old Jacob, much love and respect, Dylan. Miss you, brother. We need to go riding motorcycles soon.
Yep.
He's about to go ride his Harley down to the lake and go reset. Stay blessed, amigo.
Uh, that's my
Man,
boy Jiggity Jake.
that sounds like fun.
Yeah,
I'm jealous.
I used to sell cars with him at my last dealership.
You know what? I gotta put this one on here since you're saying it.
Yep. Hey, got that gift of gab. I can sell. Hey, I can sell anything to anybody. It don't matter. Sell water to a well, baby.
So let me ask you this one. From your personal perspective as Dylan the drummer, what is your mission? Like, if you had a mission statement, what would it be?
My mission would be to for that hour and a half or 2 hours that I'm on stage playing music and people are watching me, that all their troubles and all their problems and everything. Like that's why I do this, right? It's because that when you're at a concert, there's that hour, 2 hours, 3 hours you're watching music. Nothing else in life matters at that point, right? All your troubles go out the
Hmm.
window with mental illness is the way it is, man. I just want to be able to give people that out when it comes to listening to music and not worrying and not thinking about stuff. And also, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm here to. My mission is I want to build a brand for myself. I want to set up
Hmm.
my son and everything for the future. I hate working. I hate working a day job, so I don't want to do that. So at the end of the day, my mission is to build a brand for myself, and keep continuing on building this brand and making a name for myself. Whenever you come and watch my band play, I promise you 100% you're gonna leave and you're gonna know my name and you're gonna know who I am.
And what I asked that for a lot of people, and I think so far yours seems like the most real answer.
Yep.
That also goes back to the professionalism and, you know, making that name for you. You kind of need to have a mission statement that you can stand behind.
Yep.
You see all these big companies, they'll have one, or, organizations, they'll have a mission statement up on their main page. And, that's like the first thing you see, this is who we are, this is what we stand for.
Mhm. And I'm just real big on. I just want peace and love. In the concerts, everyone comes together as one. You know this. Everyone comes together, especially like Rocklahoma. That's one big family out
Hmm.
there. And
It is.
for that weekend that you're at Rocklahoma, you're all the worries, your light bills due, your gas bill, all that stuff. You ain't worried about none of that stuff. You're here to have a good time. Your mind's in a good spot.
Uh, you know, my ex would kill me for saying this one, but my first Rocklahoma 2014, you know, I wanted to go so bad. I was sitting in my semi truck, just pulled in by the house, parking for the weekend, and they were live on KMOD as I was pulling into town that, here in about 5 minutes, we're going to do the Rocklahoma lineup. So, I'm pulling in, parking, and like, yeah, I can wait a few minutes and take a listen. They started naming, bands like Kid Rock is like, eh, you
That
know,
was a badass
music's
performance they
okay.
did.
Oh God, yes, it was.
He
Uh,
amazed me.
then you had band. Yes, I mean he gained a new live fan.
Yeah.
Still, his music's okay, but his live performance is where it's at.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
man, then you had bands like Five Finger Death Punch. Like I just saw them literally at Capfest, and they were okay. But then that's the size of the crowd. The vibes of the crowd. That what they did at Capfest was entirely different than what they did at Rocklahoma.
Yep.
Um, so yes, your vibe definitely matters when you're out in
I
the
see.
crowd. But then,
I've been to every Oklahoma since the very beginning.
wow, you're a lifer, and you wouldn't
Yep.
change a thing. But what got me into it was, they're like, and then we have Deftones, like, ooh, I want to go. They caught my attention. And then is the moment they said Black Label Society, I was like, I'm going.
Well, I
You
love
done
that band
said
so
Zach
much.
Wild. I just love Zach Wild and anything he
Hmm.
does. Um, but as we got closer, we were to the point that we were going to have to leave the rent house. But we'd already gone through some troubles, and I didn't want to tell her. She was looking forward to going to Rocklahoma. I was looking forward to going to Rocklahoma, and I wasn't going to run the weekend. However, the first thing I said getting in the truck Monday morning, by the way, we got to move out. But I spent all weekend, we both spent all weekend just having the time of our lives.
Hmm. And a lot of people start out by going to their first Oklahoma because of the bands, but they keep coming back
Mm-hmm.
because of the people, the environment, and the vibe. That's a huge part of Oklahoma that other festivals don't have. It's just the vibe, it's the
Mm-hmm.
people, it's the brotherhood, it's the community that's there.
It is. And it's one of the big things that, you and I have both seen in the Rocklahoma groups is it's Rocklahoma, not Raplahoma. So bands like, Tech Nine's been there and Machine Gun Kelly and Yellow Wolf and some of these other um, more or less rap. Do you think that is a smart move on Rocklahoma?
Well,
Like
yeah, I
bringing in
think,
people that's,
well,
hmm?
a lot of people complain, and my dad uh, is one of them. So a lot of times, that wants to bring back the old Rocklahoma with all the '80s bands, and
Hmm.
but you gotta look at it's a business, and it's drawing in. You gotta look at your crowd, and you gotta look at what's selling now, right? And
Wait, hold on.
I don't.
Say that again. Say it for the
I said
people that's in the back not paying attention.
you gotta look at what's selling right now. You gotta look at at what is bringing in the money, and if an artist is hot and you bring in a Machine Gun Kelly or a Yellow Wolf or a Tech Nine, there's still people that listen to that stuff and still love most of the bands that are still there. But it adds that variety to it. It adds that it brings an extra draw in. There's a lot of people that your Machine Gun Kelly was there. There was a lot of people that showed up that day just for Machine Gun Kelly.
Hmm. Then how many other
And
bands did they get to listen to during that
yep,
day that, oh, hell,
and
that's
yeah,
Dime
they
Store
may be
Riot,
yeah, and they may became a fan. They may became a fan of another band in the process.
Yeah, especially some of our local music, Dime Store Riot, back when Solidify was around, Severmind, Driver, they've all played out there at Rocklahoma. How much
First
more
Strike.
attention would that get
Yep.
um, with these other people coming in that, they know it's a rock festival, but they want to see Tech Nine or Yellow Wolf or whoever. So they're walking around that day and, they go check out Doug Burgess's tit and there's, Solidify playing or there's Infall or Fist of Rage. or Perseus,
Yep.
I'm like, hell yeah, this shit's dope.
Yep. That's what it's about, man. You're bringing a crowd to discover more artists and more bands.
Yeah. So that's kind of where it's important to have a little diversity when, um, you know, for the promoters and booking agents and people that have a little diversity with your music. Don't be
Yeah.
afraid of putting a little something else with a metal show or a little something else with a
Mm.
rap show.
I mean, I hate broccoli, but that don't mean that everyone hates broccoli. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah. And hell, we want to talk about rap shows, local artists, and bringing in stuff that's different. A couple years ago, I booked Brandon Young in the middle of, well, it was like August of 22, I believe. Um, Booked him for a little dispensary, nice little covered backyard area, Perry, Oklahoma. He shows up, we're doing our thing, and just crowds having fun, and get a hold of a guy there in Perry that does beatboxing. Like, dude, get your ass out here. I got an open mic for you.
Hmm.
He comes in, he takes the stage, and starts doing his beatboxing thing, and oh, Brandon's back there by me at the front of house, and he's just like, he's getting into it, dude. Next thing I know, they're chatting away. He ends up in Tulsa, lot number 6 for the Wednesday open mic night. Who would have thought bringing some guy that's barely known in Perry that does beatboxing to a rap show,
Yep.
and then make that connection and end up in Tulsa getting his gig scene.
Yep. That's how it works. It's crazy how it works. It all comes together if it's meant to be. Now you may have to put in a little bit extra
Yeah,
work, but if it's meant to be, it all come
that
together.
bad word. Yeah, don't be afraid of that bad W word.
Yeah,
Put the
bad
work in.
W word. Put the work in. It's gonna be work. It's gonna be work. Trust me. But it's
Mhm.
all worth it.
It is. So yeah, take that chance and you know book something different.
Yep.
If it's not supposed to work, it's not going to work. But if it's meant to be, guess what? You might just have that beatboxer at a hip hop show.
Yeah. There wouldn't be electricity unless someone decided to try it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, who would have thought of flying a kite during an electrical storm?
Who'd thought of milking a cow? That's one awkward thing to do.
Oh, let's make it more awkward. Milking a goat, goat's milk.
Yep. Exactly.
Man, I got this big old bullfrog. What do we do? Cut its legs off, fry him up, and eat
Exactly.
it. Take that chance.
Exactly. Exactly. But yeah, well, I had to get off here and take this medicine for this wreck that I got into and get ready to kind of get situated up in here.
Oh
Uh,
man, we haven't even gotten. We'll have to go for a part two
oh, we go for a part two. We can go for a part two for sure tomorrow.
tomorrow. What time tomorrow?
I just got in this wreck, so I'm laying in bed. So you name it.
All right, let me see. Yeah, I had you down for March 25th. Um, do a little scrolling. Sunday, April 6th. Did that. Brigade,
Yes, sorry
Saturday. Okay, so
for
I'm.
people for people out here that don't know. Sorry, I was in a bad motorcycle wreck about 2 weeks ago. Spent a week in the hospital. Had a 5-hour surgery. Broken collarbone, broken arm, broken foot. So it's been a struggle. Today's actually been probably the first day since then I've been able to get up and move around. And
Yeah, so hence the spur of the moment interview.
yep, spur of the moment. And tomorrow you said tomorrow what time?
Oh, what time do you want to do it? Because I'm free tomorrow. Maybe not as
Y-
late.
Yeah, even as best we could probably do it 5 o'clock.
5? Okay, guys,
Yep.
tomorrow at 5.
5. I
Part
will. I'll
two.
make. I'll make a post about it too. We're gonna do a part two. We'll get
Yes,
into
we
some
will make
more.
a post.
We'll get into some more interesting stories.
Yes, because I have some more interesting questions to go along with some of those stories, I bet.
Oh yeah, it's gonna. Hey, it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure. And I look forward to tomorrow. And uh, uh, like I said, anytime anytime you want to have me on, man, I'm always willing, always grateful to come on here and chit chat with you guys.
Man, 100%. Like I said in the post earlier, I've looked forward to being able to sit and interview you. I've seen where you've been, and you're an amazing person.
Well, thank you so
100%.
much.
Amazing person, drummer. It's been a pleasure having you on. Um, you know, apparently you're well liked because you've had the biggest amount of views that I've seen so far.
Oh yeah, yeah. Hey, well, we'll get more tomorrow. Cause tomorrow we may get into some juicy stuff tomorrow. I may start getting into some of the little juicy stories tomorrow. Who knows?
Man, I tell you what, this show's all yours. I try not to talk all over people, um, because that's not what this is for. This is for you guys to get yourselves out there and get your stories told and be known and to spread information, spread the knowledge to the rest of the industry.
Yeah, and at any moment in time, anybody watching any of this stuff, if they have any questions or want to ask me anything, they can feel free to add me on Facebook and message me, and I'm always open to helping people out and answering questions and spread my knowledge because I'm in this to see everyone grow. I want nothing more than to see the next big artist come from being just a little local guy out of Tulsa. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So
So,
say something to the industry real quick. Something that we haven't discussed yet. Just any piece of advice. Whether it's the fans, the bands, the sound techs, the stage hands. Recording. Who cares? Pick pick a portion of the industry and say something.
so when it comes to the industry, right? The industry is what it is. Everyone knows that the industry is what it is, right? I mean, that's just kind of the best
Mm-hmm.
way to put it. But the biggest advice, once again, and I just kind of have a trend here with this. The biggest advice I can give anybody, especially in a band, when you go into a venue, is treat the stagehand that's helping you pull your stuff out the trailer just like you would treat the owner of the club or whatever. You want to treat everybody with respect and let them know how grateful you are for them because one, they're helping you out, and two, you don't know what the next person's going through in life, man. I mean, you really don't. It could take one word from somebody to motivate someone and to get them out that funk, or the opposite. It could take one negative word for someone to put them in that, you know, in that dark, deep
Dude,
place. So anywhere
you're
you
not
go,
lying.
even and it's hard sometimes, especially being on the road a lot, and you get moody and tired and hungry and all the kinds of stuff. But any interaction you have, even when you go to a gas station, you got to think you're not just representing yourself, you're representing your band and your music. And the last thing you want to do is pull up to the gas station and be an asshole and then play that town one time and they go, "Oh, that I remember that band. They pulled up to the gas station. They were all dicks." You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's what will get you the furthest in this business. You just want to be humble. You want to remember your roots, and you want to treat everyone like you want to be treated, and everything else will fall into place.
Dude, 100%. Be
So,
respectful.
be respectful. That's the number one thing. Now, tomorrow, you'll hear some stories where I may not have been so respectful,
But
but
you've learned.
learn. I tell you, being in this business, playing as much as I have, as long as I have, I've learned a lot of life lessons, and definitely have learned a lot, man. So I look
Well, we
forward
can't wait
to
to hear more of that knowledge.
yeah, I look forward to tomorrow, man. Five p.m. sharp. Well, I will be ready. I'll stay in contact with you, man. We'll make some posts and we'll promote it. And we'll see if we can get double or triple the viewers we had today on here.
Hell yeah, I can't wait. So Dylan, pleasure to have you on. Guys that's been watching, thank you for watching. The people that's going to watch in the future, thank you for watching. I'm glad that you made it this far and not left us. That's 2 hours of listening to Dylan talk about hanging from rafters and giving good advice. Uh, I'll see you in the studio here in just a moment. So, Dylan, thank you again. It's been a great pleasure.
All right, thank you, brother. See you tomorrow. I love you. I love you, man.
Yeah, good night.
Bye.